Hey guys, it's Brandon. I wanted to discuss the idea of purification and what that means in the mind, body, and spirit. Last night I got a message. It was pretty interesting. As far as purification for the body, what it entails is a layer or layers of spirituality. Whereas if you picture a head and you're not purifying yourself on the physical, it's adding layers to where you can't see from the spirit. So basically, if you're drinking alcohol, if you're doing drugs, if you're doing sexual things, if you're looking into things that you shouldn't look in, it's adding a layer that you have to then go see through in order to receive the messages that are being sent to you. Much like veils.
Very much like veils. They tend to hide one thing from another or encase it in shadow or darkness so that we're not as aware of it. It all goes to our discernment, and it greatly impedes our ability to discern truth from error. We have to remember the world that we live in is in error. It is not aligned with the pure, perfect truth of the is, which is beyond all of this, but it's a copy of it, and then against the copy then is laid a version and aversion and perversion of the copy. The perversion really has no idea that the isness even is. And so the veiling is done in order to keep us distracted and keep us off track so that we wind up following all these endless rabbit trails and rabbit holes that spiral downward evermore, and some people end up never coming back out of them.
Yeah, when I was in recovery once upon a time, there was a book called A New Pair of Glasses. And I equate it to that because it's like wearing glasses and then trying to understand or decipher the truth. But then when you do these acts, things that you shouldn't be dabbling in, be it astral projection, lucid dreaming, whatever, one isn't accessing but wants to, it's almost like you're putting another pair of glasses in front of each one to where you're almost magnifying the thing that you're looking for, but it's just not working. It's like, and what I got this morning was basically you're magnifying things in which do not matter. Be it this movie, that movie, this person's message, that person's message. It's almost as if it's keeping you so focused or hyper focused on one thing that you're not able to see the bigger picture. And that bigger picture is the downloads, it's the higher self, it's the incoming messages that are trying to make their way to you, yet you keep putting things in front of it in which you then latch onto, which don't matter, if that makes sense.
Oh, that totally makes sense. So what I would relate that back to is in Christianity we were taught that we were nothing, and that we must always seek the advisement of this Creator God to tell us what to do and to do things for us because we're incapable of doing anything at all. However, this Yeshua cat comes on the scene, and he pretty much calls all that BS, and he says the kingdom's within you, and he told the people, you speak to the mountain, you speak to the tree, you speak to the demon. He didn't say go and beg some other entity to do it for you, and he sure as heck didn't say, I want you to ask me to come do this for you because you're too stupid and dumb to do it yourself. Not once. In fact, he came back with, are you not gods? But you will die like men, which is a quote from, I believe it's Psalms 80 or 81, where King David was addressing something else, but really let slip a really big truth there, that we are much higher beings than what our current reality would appear to indicate. But I think you're spot on with the need for purification is exactly the same as When you're sharpening a knife, you are removing a small amount of metal from that blade with every stroke of the steely or the whatever thing you're using to sharpen it with. You remove a little bit of the stuff that does not belong there any longer. And so I know one morning I woke up with, I couldn't figure out why things were going, you know, in my world. This has probably been 20 years ago. And anyway, the what I heard back was, your sword is dull on one side. I have things I still have to sharpen and remove off of that edge so I can rightly divide truth and error
Mm-hmm.
in this world that is just fraught with error and distraction.
Yeah, and I agree to that wholeheartedly, because yesterday I was in a space where I was I don't want to say like really emotional, but it was like I was really emotional for the things that have come and gone in my time here. And what I woke up with this morning was, stop letting these things, these smaller things, get in the way of the bigger picture, because the bigger picture is why you're here.
Right.
And it kept telling me in different ways. You know, we all get messages that will tell us things in our own way so we can understand them. But it was like you're worrying about things that are non-essential to make sure that your spirit is guiding you back, quote unquote, home. Let the spirit guide the way. And so what I got was that through, in the beginning of this journey, I should say, you're trying to get home. Like, we all are trying to get home. And what happens is they know that. So what they do is they place distractions in front of you, be it life, be it children, be it medications, be it alcohol, video games, career. They put these veils in front of you to have you focus and redirect your attention that way, when it should be the complete opposite way. And when I woke up this morning, it was like one thing after another told me medication's a distraction, you know, alcohol's a distraction, loneliness, isolation, religion. It was like one thing after another. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, if I'm the middle of the onion, that little, like I said, a head, and then there's these veils outside of it, and one's medication, one's religion, one's, you know, make this person happy, make that person happy, career, whatever. It was literally an onion, and I have been the whole time peeling back these onion layers to get back to myself in order to return home.
Well, I see that, and you're absolutely correct. I think, though, mostly the problem lies in our being focused on those extraneous variables.
And see, this goes back to what you said, is like, we should not be focusing on what's here. We should be focusing on what is the true.
This is correct. But I think another thing is, you know, we've talked a little about flipping the script and stuff, and there's a lot of different opinion on what that is. To me, flipping the script is, what the enemy intends for evil, I know my higher self intends for good.
When I hear flipping the script, it's I'm reading the script on a piece of paper, line by line, page by page. When I flip that, it becomes a blank page. It becomes open-ended. Like, I have freedom to choose the right way. I think of a blank piece of paper on one side, and the other side is a script. Once I flip that script, I am now entering the zone of spirit, the boundless, the what is actually there, which is what is. And I have freedom to choose. I can go back to the script and be distracted and find out who the hero or the heroine is, but I can also choose to look at that page, empty as it is, and not fill it up again with the distractions. And when I don't do that, I can then feel and hear that still quiet voice, so that spirit can talk to me.
You can, and on one level, that I think that would be absolutely correct. But the level that I'm referring to is, we still live in duality. It doesn't matter what we think. If we think this is a holograph, like, you know, I was talking with my grandson today, trying to push a board through a rock, it's never going to work. Right. Not in this zone. I don't care how many people say,
there are rules
it's
here.
There are rules here.
Yeah.
And from the best I can see is that it is not in our true nature to impose our laws or rules from our homeland upon this world here. They took that and made their own model or copy of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they've perverted that entirely. So you can see an essence or little bits of it.
It's based
In
it's based off of the real. It's not the real, but it contains an essence of it, which has been
it
quote
has
unquote
to,
usurped or copied or inverted.
yeah,
Yeah, it has to.
because that's the only way you can make a forgery is to be so good at copying the real. You see, so that you can fool even the most trained eyes. And so
See, it's
that's
funny you say that because like I used to collect trinkets,
mm-hmm.
like Pirates of the Caribbean and the coin from the treasure chest, or like a ring from a Stanley Cup winning hockey team. I used to collect these like awards, so that I could like bring them up and talk about them in my office. I had like multiple bookcases. I had all these trinkets from things that I was interested in, hoping that somebody would see it and like start a conversation so we could get along. But they're never the true trinket or original. They're always copies of it.
They are, but what you were even doing was trying to use that to establish a common ground with
Correct.
someone else.
Correct.
And the common ground is your hookup and your linkage. And that's the thing that I keep harping on over and over is we've got to remove those ties, which brings that right into the whole concept of purification. It's not how many times you can click your heels and say amen or whatever you say,
Yeah.
how many mantras you can do, how many times you meditate, how many times you get up and sit down. It's not really all about that. I'm not knocking the people who do those practices because I think it does assist in focusing on the different things, but I don't think that they are the thing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
That brings in these different concepts and ideas. But what I mean by flipping the script is instead of, we have a tendency to get caught up in, oh, I'm so lonesome I could cry, or I don't have any money, they're after me, they're going to get me, they're going to do this and they're this and they that and boo-hoo and poor pitiful me, and we all do it. I've spent years in that channel, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. But I finally remembered something again that's written in the book everyone wants to throw away, and I say don't throw out the baby with the wash, is that it says in there that what, and of course it's going to say God, what the devil means for evil, God means for good. And so I think there is a place that our own higher self, and we were talking about this the other day, where we kind of touched on it a little bit. I think we are so asleep and so unaware and so wiped and distant from that memory, those true memories, that it will take those types of events, not coming from our true father mother oneness on the other side, but from the higher entity that first made these soul bodies that we inhabit. And so that being is waiting for the time where it can recollect its breath.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allows these things from the darker part of the scenario here to happen, knowing that we're here, and it has basic rules that everything has to abide by, but even the darkness does. There's some things that they can't. That's why it says to the sea, God says, this far and no further. They're allowed to do these things. So that tells me they're in cahoots together. That's why God never killed the devil.
Right.
So they're all benefiting from it. So these things were allowed to happen because ultimately it benefits the higher entity, whatever that thing is, Yaldabaoth, or is my hunch. But it allows it, and it intends it for good in order to reawaken us. So if we fall under it and into that spell, then the enemy intends to use it to destroy us. Whereas the Creator God wants it to wake us up so that we rise above and we shake off those shackles
Or veils.
and veils, and we pierce the veils, and we can see through. So it's the same event. The event in and of itself is not quote unquote evil, it's the intention behind it.
Right.
And then on our end, it's our interpretation of it. It's how we choose to get caught up in the negative of it and we feed all of them, or are we going to choose to see that there can be good come out of this? I'd have never thought that with my divorce and all the hell I had to go through with that.
So true.
But I can look at it now and I'm like,
thank you, grateful.
I'm
it
grateful,
sucked, but
I'm grateful that I woke up. I'm not
Yeah.
thankful for the event.
no,
But
no.
apparently someone much higher than me, I'm going to say my higher self, knew that's what it was going to take to wake my happy ass up.
Likewise, it was like when I was married, it was like, oh, you think this is it? You think this is as good as it can get? Guess what? Here's the reality of things. Here, it's almost like I was pushed into a very, what do they call it in AA? The bottomless pit or the or rock bottom. You know, you have to get to this space in which you have had enough of the enough, and you say, there has to be better. There has to be meaning. What is the meaning? What is the truth behind it? And the truth is, you're not from here. You are expected to realize this, and yet you haven't. I'm going to push you a little bit further, and when you realize it, then you'll start to seek what is true, what actually is, and not this inversion copy, any of it. You're fed up with it. You're tired of it.
Oh yeah, you have to get to the end of yourself and your own ability to make things happen or to do things, and start walking in the spirit and allowing spirit to speak through you and to work through you and bring things into fruition. And that's how we disconnect from this system that we've always tried to satisfy and got nowhere with it.
Yeah, and it's like you can, forgive me guys, I'm just going to give you examples. Like you can collect all the CDs and music you want. You can watch all the pornography you want. You can drink all the various types of liquor that you want. You can go get all the jobs that you want. You can try and sleep with all the right women or men or whatever your fancy is to get to this goal that is not actually real. And so you're doing this over and over and over, and you're keeping these veils over top of you. And when you realize that that is not the solution, that the solution is to stop all these mundane, or not even mundane, all these extravagant things, that is when you will let the spirit come in and guide you. It's weird. I was telling Carrie the other day, it's like every time I get to a low point, or what I feel like is a low point, that is when spirit talks to me. And it's almost like I have to be smacked on the ass or smacked on the forehead with, dude, stop getting in my way of talking to you. Like, I'm trying to talk to you and you're fucking it up. Excuse me, YouTube. You know, effing it up. Like, you are getting in the way of what we're trying to do here. And when you get out of the way of your spirit, not like, not a collective spirit, like your spirit, that's when things start to happen. And I continuously notice that when I put down the remote, or I stop overthinking, or am I a chosen one, or am I God, or am I this, am I mind? When I stop, when I truly stop, is when things actually progress.
Well, and that's the only time they can, because I remember even with anybody I've ever dated before, my whole thing was, if you're still talking to so-and-so, you ain't got time for me. And the spirit's the same way. If we're still got our nose in looking at Bob's account and Susie's account and Billina and Wagalina, and see that they've got all these other, y'all stop.
We're laughing.
Things
Sorry.
going on that we don't ever know what's coming out my mouth. That's for sure.
Wagalina.
It's quite funny. But we've got all these other things going on, you know, and the spirit's sitting there like with their arms crossed and tapping her toe, like, when you're done, then we can move on with this. But we've got to learn, when do we need to cut off all of these other things. And honestly, if we're still seeking out experiences and things that appeal to our flesh or our ego that we can do higher, faster, bigger, badder, better than anyone else, or more frequently, then we need to really consider, are we feeding ego, even if we think it's spiritual stuff, or is this something that is going to continue with me on the other side? Because my bet is that no, it will not. It's restricted here and only here.
Artificial ego,
Yeah.
or artificial ego seeks experience.
Yep.
When somebody seeks experience, that comes from a place of lack, of need. When you realize that is a quote unquote artificial spirit, you realize my spirit is whole. It doesn't lack anything. It doesn't need anything. And I like the way you said that, because I picture a line going up into the top, which is you are on the line, and you're going to the spirit, and you're getting distractions from the left, distractions from the right. Right. It could be astral projection over here, lucid dreaming over here. What about OBEs? What about secret space program? These are all things that you're wiggling in between in order to get the spirit. And once you go off course or veer left or veer right, you're off course and you can get stuck there. And the point is to not get stuck in any of this.
Right, because things are accelerating so quickly.
Absolutely.
That we don't have time to keep going off to the left or the right anymore. We've got to find the middle path and stick with it. It is a narrow, 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 narrow path. And there are very few that will find it. That may not be popular. I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to speak the truth. And that's all I know to say. But I do believe it's very, very, very few will find that actual path.
I agree. So the main message is purification is essential in all ways, because you are trying to be led by something that you can't perceive, because you keep adding veils on top of yourself, be it whatever nuances that you want to dabble into. So know that in this time, as time is speeding up, purification is important, because Spirit is trying to communicate with you and guide you into these correct areas, not false areas. And so you have to, drink a lot of water, do your walks, take salt baths, those kind of things. Like, it is essential. If you fill your mind with all these rhetorics on YouTube or Rumble, whatever, or sports, for example, you are blocking the message Spirit is trying to send to you. And I think that is crucial right now.
It is. It blocks it, and it also inhibits greatly our ability to discern the actual truth, because the erroneous quote unquote truth will look identical to it and usually starts off with a bit of it, and then it starts swinging out to the left or the right. And whereas real truth will always be straight up in alignment with no veering left or right.
Yeah, I agree. I picture, when you said that, I don't know how visual I am. Goodness, I was picturing like a pirate ship. It's like, hey, let's go this way, let's go this way, and then all of a sudden you see like Booty Island, and it's like, oh crap! How long have I been on Booty Island? I need to get back on course. Help, help, help! It's like the treasure, booty as in treasure. Like it's
Oh.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys, we're gonna end it there.